Ladies and gentlemen, it's a profound and unsettling truth that the greatest obstacle standing between you and the life you could lead is not some external force, not some malevolent adversary lurking in the shadows. It's you. It's the voice in your head that whispers doubt when you dare to dream. It's the part of you that clings to comfort even when you know that comfort is a cage. It's the habits you've cultivated, the excuses you've made, and the lies you've told yourself to avoid the hard but necessary work of becoming who you could be. You see, the human psyche is a battlefield, and the war you're fighting is not against the world, it's against your own limitations, your own fears, your own laziness, and your own capacity for self-deception. You are the one who tells yourself, I can't, when the truth is you haven't tried hard enough. You are the one who says, it's too late, when the truth is you're afraid to start. You are the one who sabotages your own progress because deep down you're terrified of what might happen if you actually succeeded. What if you became everything you're capable of? What then? Would you be able to handle it? Or would you retreat back into the familiar misery of your own inadequacy? And here's the thing, you can't outrun this. You can't blame the world or your circumstances or the people around you for the fact that you're not where you want to be. The world is harsh, yes, but it's also full of opportunity. The real question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to continue to let your worst impulses dictate your life? Are you going to keep feeding the part of you that wants to stay small, that wants to avoid responsibility, that wants to hide from the truth? Or are you going to confront yourself, your real self, the one you see in the mirror when no one else is watching, and demand better? Because here's the truth, you are capable of more than you think. You are stronger than you believe. But you have to stop getting in your own way. You have to stop letting your fear of failure, your fear of judgment, your fear of the unknown dictate your actions. You have to stop lying to yourself about what you're capable of and start taking responsibility for your own life. And that's hard. It's brutally hard, but it's also necessary. So ask yourself, what are you avoiding? What are you afraid of? What's the one thing you know you need to do, but you keep putting off because it's easier to stay where you are? And then ask yourself this, how long are you going to let yourself be your own worst enemy? How long are you going to let the best version of you remain buried under the weight of your own excuses? The choice is yours, but remember, every day you delay, every day you give in to the part of you that wants to stay small is a day you'll never get back. And time, as they say, waits for no one. Your greatest obstacle is yourself. It's a statement that carries a weight of truth so profound that it can feel almost unbearable to confront. But it's also a truth that, if you're willing to face it, can set you free. You see, the world is full of challenges, external forces that can and will test you. But none of those forces, no matter how formidable, can compare to the internal battles you wage within your own mind. The doubts, the fears, the insecurities, the laziness, the procrastination, the self-deception, these are the real enemies. These are the forces that hold you back, that keep you small, that prevent you from becoming the person you could be. Think about it. How many times have you set a goal for yourself only to find that the biggest obstacle wasn't the difficulty of the task itself, but your own reluctance to even begin? How many times have you told yourself, I'll start tomorrow, or I'm not ready yet, or it's too hard, when the truth is you were simply afraid? Afraid of failure, afraid of judgment, afraid of the unknown. And so you stayed where you were, trapped in a cycle of inaction and regret, while the life you could have been living slipped further and further out of reach. And it's not just fear that holds you back, it's also the stories you tell yourself, the narratives you construct to justify your own limitations. I'm not smart enough, I'm not talented enough, I'm not lucky enough. These are lies, and deep down, they're lies. But they're comforting lies because they absolve you of responsibility. If you're not smart enough, then it's not your fault that you haven't achieved your goals. If you're not talented enough, then it's not your fault that you're stuck in a job you hate. If you're not lucky enough, then it's not your fault that your life hasn't turned out the way you wanted it to. But here's the thing, as long as you cling to these lies, you will never change. You will never grow. You will never become the person you were meant to be. So what do? How do you overcome this internal obstacle, this enemy within? The first step is to recognize it for what it is. You have to look in the mirror and confront the truth that you are the one standing in your own way. That's not easy. It's painful, humbling, even terrifying, but it's also necessary. Because until you acknowledge the problem, you can't begin to solve it. The next step is to take responsibility, not in a vague, abstract sense, but in a concrete, actionable way. What are the specific habits, behaviors, and thought patterns that are holding you back? Are you procrastinating? Are you avoiding difficult conversations? Are you letting fear dictate your decisions? Identify these things and then commit to changing them. It won't be easy. In fact, it will be one of the hardest things you've ever done. But it's also one of the most important. Finally, you have to believe in your own potential. This might sound like empty optimism, but it's not. It's a recognition of the fact that you are capable of far more than you think. You have strengths you haven't yet tapped into, talents you haven't yet discovered, and a resilience you haven't yet tested. But none of that matters if you don't believe it. If you don't believe in yourself, then you will never take the risks necessary to grow. You will never push yourself beyond your comfort zone. You will never achieve the things you're truly capable of. So stop getting in your own way. Stop letting fear, doubt, and self-deception dictate your life. Take responsibility for your own potential and start moving toward the person you could be. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Because the greatest obstacle you will ever face is yourself, and once you overcome that, there's nothing you can't achieve. To confront your limitations is to engage in one of the most difficult but necessary battles of your life. It's a battle that requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to face the parts of yourself that you'd rather ignore. Because here's the truth, you are limited. We all are. You have weaknesses, blind spots, and flaws that hold you back. You have habits that undermine your potential, fears that paralyze you, and tendencies that keep you stuck in cycles of mediocrity. But here's the thing, those limitations don't define you. What defines you is how you respond to them. Or do you ignore them pretending they don't exist? Or do you confront them head on with the determination to overcome them? The first step in confronting your limitations is to acknowledge them. This is harder than it sounds because it requires a level of self-awareness that most people avoid. It's painful to look in the mirror and admit, I'm not as disciplined as I should be, or I let my fear of failure control me, or I'm not living up to my potential. But this pain is necessary. It's the kind of pain that precedes growth. If you refuse to acknowledge your limitations, you'll never be able to address them. You'll remain trapped in a cycle of self-deception, telling yourself that everything is fine when it's not. And the longer you stay in that cycle, the harder it becomes to break free. Once you've acknowledged your limitations, the next step is to take responsibility for them. This is where things get really difficult because it's so much easier to blame external factors for your shortcomings. It's easier to say, I'm not successful because the economy is bad, or I'm not happy because other people don't treat me well, or I'm not healthy because I don't have enough time. But the truth is, while external factors certainly play a role, they are not the primary reason you're stuck. The primary reason is you. You are the one who chooses to procrastinate instead of taking action. You are the one who chooses to avoid difficult conversations instead of addressing problems head on. You are the one who chooses to indulge in bad habits instead of building good ones. And until you take responsibility for those choices, you will never be able to change them. Taking responsibility is only the beginning, though. The real work comes in the form of action. You have to actively work to overcome your limitations, and that requires discipline, effort, and persistence. If you're undisciplined, you need to create structure in your life. If you're afraid of failure, you need to take small, calculated risks to build your confidence. If you're stuck in bad habits, you need to replace them with better ones. This is not easy. It's grueling, exhausting, and often frustrating, but it's also necessary because the only way to grow is to push beyond your current limits, and the only way to do that is to confront them directly. Confronting your limitations also means embracing the discomfort that comes with growth. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens when you're stretched, when you're challenged, when you're forced to adapt. And that's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to face your fears, to admit your mistakes, to do the hard work of changing yourself. But discomfort is not your enemy. It's a sign that you're moving in the right direction. It's a sign that you're pushing beyond your current boundaries and into new territory. And that's where the magic happens. That's where you discover strengths you didn't know you had, talents you didn't know you possessed, and a resilience you didn't know you were capable of. Finally, confronting your limitations requires humility. You have to be willing to admit that you don't have all the answers, that you're not perfect, and that you still have a lot to learn. This is difficult, especially in a culture that values confidence and self-assurance above all else. But humility is not weakness. It's strength. It's the recognition that you are a work in progress and that there is always room for improvement. And it's the willingness to seek out the knowledge, guidance, and support you need to continue growing. So confront your limitations. Acknowledge them, take responsibility for them, and work tirelessly to overcome them. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Because on the other side of those limitations is the person you are meant to be, the person you are capable of becoming. And that person is waiting for you to take the first step. To take responsibility for your life is to step into the arena of existence with your eyes wide open, fully aware of the weight of your choices and the consequences they bring. It's a daunting task, one that requires courage, clarity, and an unflinching willingness to face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. Because the truth is this: your life is your responsibility, not your parents', not your partners', not your bosses', not society's. Yours. And until you fully embrace that truth, you will remain a passive participant in your own story, buffeted by the winds of circumstance and trapped in a cycle of blame, resentment, and stagnation. The first step in taking responsibility is to stop blaming external forces for your problems. It's easy to point fingers at the economy, at your upbringing, at the people who've wronged you. And while it's true that these factors can shape your circumstances, they do not determine your destiny. You are not a puppet, helplessly pulled by the strings of fate. You are an active agent capable of making choices that shape your future. But to exercise that agency, you must first stop outsourcing the blame for your problems. You must stop telling yourself it's not my fault and start asking, what can I do about it? This shift in perspective is crucial because it moves you from a position of victimhood to a position of power. It reminds you that no matter how difficult your circumstances, you always have a choice. And that choice is where your power lies. Taking responsibility also means confronting your own failures and shortcomings. This is perhaps the most difficult part because it requires a level of honesty that most people avoid. It's painful to admit that you've made mistakes, that you've fallen short of your own standards, that you've contributed to the problems you're facing. But this pain is necessary. It's the kind of pain that leads to growth. If you refuse to confront your failures, you'll never learn from them. You'll keep repeating the same patterns, making the same mistakes, and wondering why nothing changes. But if you're willing to face them, to really look at them, understand them, and take ownership of them, you can begin to change. You can start to make better choices, to build better habits, and to move in a better direction. Of course, taking responsibility doesn't mean beating yourself up for every mistake you've ever made. It doesn't mean wallowing in guilt or shame. It means acknowledging your errors, learning from them, and committing to do better. It means recognizing that you are not perfect, but that you are capable of improvement. And it means understanding that every failure is an opportunity, a chance to learn, to grow, and to become stronger. Taking responsibility also means setting goals and working toward them with discipline and determination. It's not enough to simply acknowledge your problems. You have to take action to solve them. This requires effort, focus, and persistence. It means showing up every day, even when you don't feel like it. It means doing the hard work of building a better life brick by brick, even when the progress feels slow. And it means holding yourself accountable, even when no one else is watching. Because at the end of the day, the only person who can truly hold you accountable is you. Finally, taking responsibility means embracing the uncertainty and chaos of life with a sense of purpose and meaning. Life is unpredictable. It's messy. It's full of challenges and setbacks, but it's also full of opportunities. And the way you respond to those challenges and opportunities is what defines you. Do you shrink from them, retreating into fear and self-pity? Or do you face them head-on with courage and determination? The choice is yours. But remember, every choice you make shapes your future. Every action you take or fail to take has consequences. And those consequences are your responsibility. So take responsibility for your life. Stop blaming others. Stop making excuses. Stop waiting for someone else to come and save you. Instead, take ownership of your choices, your actions, and your future. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Because on the other side of responsibility is freedom, the freedom to create the life you want, to become the person you were meant to be, and to face the chaos of existence with strength and purpose. And that freedom is within your grasp, if only you're willing to reach for it. You are capable of more than you think. This is not just a comforting platitude, it's a profound truth that if you truly internalize it, can transform your life. The human capacity for growth, resilience, and achievement is far greater than most people realize. But here's the catch. You have to believe it. You have to believe in your own potential even when the evidence seems to suggest otherwise. Even when you've failed, even when you've been knocked down, even when the voice in your head is whispering, you're not good enough. Because that voice is lying to you. It's lying to keep you small, to keep you safe, to keep you from taking the risks necessary to grow. And if you listen to it, you'll never discover what you're truly capable of. Think about it. How many times have you underestimated yourself? How many times have you set a goal only to abandon it because you thought it was too ambitious? How many times have you looked at someone else's achievements and thought, I could never do that without even trying? The truth is, you don't know what you're capable of until you push yourself, until you step outside your comfort zone, until you take on challenges that scare you. Because it's only in those moments when you're stretched to your limits, when you're forced to dig deep and find reserves of strength you didn't know you had, that you discover your true potential. And here's the thing, your potential is not fixed. It's not something you're born with, like the color of your eyes or the shape of your face. It's something you develop. It's something you build through effort, through struggle, through perseverance. Every time you push yourself to do something difficult, you expand your capacity. Every time you face a challenge and overcome it, you become stronger. Every time you fail and get back up, you become more resilient. This is how growth happens. It's not easy. It's not comfortable, but it's necessary. Because the person you are today is not the person you have to be tomorrow. You can be more. You can do more. But only if you're willing to try. Of course, believing in your own potential is only the first step. The next step is to act on that belief, to set ambitious goals and work toward them with discipline and determination, to take risks even when you're afraid, to keep going even when the odds seem stacked against you. This is where most people falter. They set a goal, they encounter obstacles, and they give up. They tell themselves, I'm not cut out for this, or it's too hard, or I'll never make it. But the truth is, the obstacles are part of the process. They're not signs that you're on the wrong path. They're signs that you're on the right one. Because growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in struggle. It happens when you're pushed to your limits and forced to adapt. And if you're willing to embrace that struggle, to face it head on with courage and determination, you'll discover that you're capable of far more than you ever imagined. It's also important to recognize that your potential is not just about achieving external success. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. It's about developing your character, your integrity, your resilience. It's about facing the chaos of existence with courage and purpose and finding meaning in the struggle. Because at the end of the day, the most important battles you'll ever fight are the ones within yourself. The battles against your own fear, your own laziness, your own self-doubt. And when you win those battles, when you push yourself to be better, to do better, to strive for something greater, you'll discover a sense of fulfillment and purpose that no external achievement can match. So, stop underestimating yourself. Stop listening to the voice that tells you you're not good enough. Stop settling for less than you're capable of. Instead, believe in your potential. Believe that you are capable of more than you think, and then act on that belief. Set ambitious goals. Take risks. Push yourself. And when you encounter obstacles, and you will, don't give up. Keep going. Because the person you are today is not the person you have to be tomorrow. You are capable of more, much more. And the only thing standing in your way is you. So where does this leave you? Standing at the crossroads of your own potential, faced with a choice that will define the trajectory of your life. You can continue to listen to the voice that whispers doubt, that tells you to play it safe, to stay small, to avoid the risks and challenges that come with growth. Or you can choose to believe in yourself, to truly believe that you are capable of more than you think, that you have within you the strength, resilience, and determination to overcome any obstacle, to achieve any goal, to become the person you were meant to be. This is not an easy path. It will demand everything from you, your courage, your discipline, your willingness to face discomfort and uncertainty. It will require you to confront your fears, to take responsibility for your failures, and to push yourself beyond your limits. But it is also the only path worth taking, because on the other side of that struggle is a life of meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. A life where you are not defined by your limitations, but by your potential. A life where you are not a passive participant, but an active creator of your own destiny. So ask yourself, what kind of life do you want to live? What kind of person do you want to be? And then make the choice. Take the first step. Push yourself beyond what you think is possible. Because the truth is, you are capable of more than you think, much more. And the only thing standing in your way is you. Don't let that be the story of your life. Don't let fear, doubt, or self-deception rob you of the future you could have. Instead, rise to the challenge, embrace the struggle, and become the person you were meant to be. Because the world needs you, your strengths, your talents, your unique contribution. And you owe it to yourself and to the world to give it everything you've got.